So today we have had a client drop off a 2022 Audi RS6. This thing is fantastic, Nardo Grey, black package, 22-inch wheels. I don't think an RS6 can be spec'd in any other way than this. Now this is booked in for the full Omni Garage Correct and Protect package, including the wheels as well. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to bring you guys along the journey of the detailing of this car in a bit of a case study format. So obviously pretty unique paint, the Nardo Grey. It's very, very flat. There's no speckle to it. So it's a unique paint to work with, and it doesn't give any forgiveness at all. So before you ceramic coat a vehicle like this, you want to ensure that you go through and completely correct it, because again, with a ceramic, you are locking in a finish, and this, although it does hide dirt really well, in the direct sunlight, a flat paint like this shows off those imperfections. So we'll bring you on the journey. This will be in the garage for probably the next week or so, and we'll chip away at it. I'd expect us to probably spend somewhere in the vicinity of 50 to 60 hours on this. All right, so this car has been chemically and mechanically deconned, and we're pretty ready to start polishing it. Couple of real interesting things we've noticed by going through that process, which I think is quite important so that you get a feel for some areas that you need to pay attention to. But one thing we've noticed is that this is a relatively new car. It is a demo model, come from the dealership, and you can tell that this car's definitely been loved on and been maybe dry wiped or detail sprayed a lot, so that when customers were coming in and trialing this car out, it always looked quite good. Now under real bright showroom lighting and probably on delivery of this vehicle, it probably looked quite nice, but under a light of a detailer, you can tell that this car has been rubbed on way too many times. There are some decent scratches in there, and we've got some overlays that we'll run through and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. There's a couple of real harsh spots, maybe where there was some dust or some bird droppings, and they've just dry wiped with the towel to try and get it off, and there's some evidence of that definitely on the hood. Although there wasn't much tar on this car, which you'd expect there probably isn't because it's done pretty low mileage, there was actually quite a lot of iron on there, and which is quite unusual for us, because Glenn and I, we've detailed a lot of cars and we usually go, oh, we put a bit of iron decon down just to remove iron, and we go, oh, it's almost a waste of time because we don't really get rid of much iron. But on this car, there was a lot of iron. Nearly every panel had iron on it, and you saw that run through. Couple of things for that: maybe it's come on a boat and it's sat at port for some time while it was shipped here, or maybe the dealership is in an area where there's quite a lot of iron in the air. I don't really know, but this car had a lot of iron, and that's why it's important not to really miss out any steps. If you were polishing this car and you hadn't done that and you got little iron deposits in your pad, you would be inducing more scratches potentially onto the paint. You'd be like, oh, why is this not correcting out? Is this paint hard, rah-de-rah-de-rah? It's probably because you've got iron in your pad, and so it's destroying that. So I'm really happy we spent the time to do that. And just for a frame of reference, we are 3 hours into the detail so far, times 2 because we're both working on this. So we are 6 hours to get the car in a state where we can actually bring it under light and start inspecting it. The combination that seems to be working on this car is a Rupe's fine pad, foam pad with Meguiar's M101, and we seem to be doing anywhere between sort of 4 to 8 passes depending on some real tough areas. We're about to tackle the bit of this hood that we've left, which is probably the worst part of the whole car. We'll show you that on camera, and then
the goal is to finish compounding sort of the other half of this vehicle, and then we will come back with Sonak's perfect finish and just refine our paint a little bit more and add a little bit of gloss back in. But it's actually pretty hard work for a pretty new car. It's in pretty bad condition, this paint, but I feel like we've gone from a section, I sort of explained to Glenn the other day, a section of paint about yay big where there's like 1 million scratches in there, just the whole thing was full of scratches, to the same size panel of paint that's probably got, I don't know, 5 little tick marks or 5 little scratches in that area. So I feel like we're doing really well. Now, you kind of get to a point where you need to decide, right? So we'll probably correct this car, I don't know, I'll chuck a random number out there, let's say 95% corrected, right? It's going to take us, I don't know, 50 odd hours to get there. Now, if we were to spend that same amount of time, we'd probably only get to like 97%. So the further you get along and the more time you spend, you end up with diminishing returns. And this is a customer's car, and I can tell you now that us, under these light conditions, we can see a few scratches here and there, but I can tell you now that when the customer picks his car, he's going to absolutely love it. He's not going to be using the, you know, when you park up at Pack and Save to do your groceries, you're not going to get your little light out and go, ooh, the boys missed one there. What he's going to do is he's going to park up a Pack and Save, he's going to lock the car, he's going to turn back and have a look, and he's go, oh, that's damn nice.
So what we do in the garage here when we're working on a car is we don't necessarily replicate the lighting conditions you're going to get outside, but we will create extremely harsh lighting conditions so we can really micromanage the paint and inspect it at a level that you wouldn't even be able to do under direct sunlight. So what it means is that when it leaves the garage and it goes out of this extremely harsh lighting, if you weren't able to see it under this, you are not going to be able to see it under direct sunlight.
So I'm going to do this panel here on camera now, and you can see, if Glenn puts the camera over the top, you can see that there's water spots in there, you can see there's some fine scratches, and as we come over to this area of the paint here is where it gets really bad, and that's where that sort of worst place is for the scratches that we'll try and correct. I don't know how well we'll go, but that's the worst little section on the car. So a bunch of passes down here, and this is the part where I basically show you what kind of result we've got. And you sit here and you laugh and you go, oh, Glenn, you know, you're talking about like you suck at detailing. And good old CarPro sprayer, so we're not off to a good start here. Bit of CarPro razor on here, and we'll remove those polishing oils and reveal what kind of surface we are left with. I just did it all in one big block just for this. Basically, I would usually do a section at a time, reveal, check my work, see how we're getting on, and do it in sections, but might as well wipe over here so we can see what scratches did look like. What do you reckon? I've done enough to get rid of all these scratches in here?
Oh, I've got confidence in the...
I've just done this panel here.
And the skills. Yeah, so this section here still needs to be worked. This whole area over here has been done with our compounding step. So we still need to finish polish that.
So just be reminded, this still does need finishing polishing. So there will be some little, I suppose, haze or a few holograms here and there. And we will get that with our perfect finish. So a bit of a refinement, but I think we'll have pretty decent results under here. So let's inspect the work. I can see some haze through this paint already in a few spots. There's one scratch there, I don't know if you're going to pick it up. It's pretty small though. And then in this area, I'm going to have to sort of guess where it is because it looks like it's gone. But in this area here was where that big sort of, I guess that sort of scratch that was in that way, and I can't actually see it. And the camera's probably not going to pick this up as good as I can with this light here. I'd honestly show you if I could find it, and I can't.
We'll send that light a little bit further to the right where we've not corrected yet. Keep going.
Over here.
Over in this area.
And then it gets into water spot territory, it gets into quite a lot of other scratches. Are they picking them up in the camera? Can you see them?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a big section there. So if we compare that section right there to the section I've done, and you said that there was another big section of scratches down here, and I can't even see those either. So I would say, oh, there's one there. Bit of a long linear scratch there. But otherwise, whew, not bad, eh? What do you think?
That's pretty good.
And that's a rock chip there. We can't fix rock chips, unfortunately. But otherwise, I feel like that's a pretty decent job. And if this was my car, I'd be absolutely happy with that result. And what I'm really liking on this paint is you end up with a section that's full of scratches, and then as you work through it, you end up with this panel that just looks like orange peel, and it's actually really satisfying to see that. And then if we come down to this area here, so this door has largely been done as well, corrected. It hasn't had any refinement yet, but this section through here has all been corrected, and then we'll come over to this door that hasn't been, and you'll be able to see a difference there. So door handles are an interesting place to work. They're usually an area that's really sort of scratched up and is actually really bad. So like even if we look inside the door handle there, a lot of scratches. I'm not quite sure what the technique is to get rid of this, but one of us will probably end up having to open the door handle up, and we might be able to fit the Nano with a 1-inch pad in the inside there. But it's just from this motion here, you know, fingernails and keys and stuff like that that are just sort of banging in this area, rings, etc., that are causing those scratches in that area. So it's an area that you notice because this is where you're coming to see, you know, to open your car. So you notice this area a lot, and that's the area that we really work hard to ensure that the scratches are gone, because that's the area that the customer will probably notice the most.
Okay, so the car is all done. So we spent a combined 60 hours working on the RS6, getting it to look how it really should have looked coming from the dealership. And what we topped it with once we did all of that hard work on the compounding is we used Crystal Serum Light. So this is our ceramic coating of choice. So this was applied, and then we waited for that to cure. So a full 24 hours is what we left that on the car for. You can leave it for 4. We like to let it cure overnight. Then we applied EXO on top of that, which is Gtechniq's hydrophobic top layer. So it means that when it comes to maintaining this car, washing this car, it's going to be really, really easy to use something like a leaf blower, remove all of the water off the surface, but this also adds some chemical resistance to the car as well. So the way that we typically apply a ceramic coating would be using a CarPro suede applicator block, and we would put a microfiber over this, and we would essentially use it in a crosshatch like format. Really, really slow to coat a car like this. We thought with this one we'd try a slightly different technique. CarPro have this nifty new microfiber applicator, which is much bigger, but it essentially removes the need to add a pad on top of this. So we coated using this new microfiber applicator. Now it looks huge compared to what we typically coat with, but what we found with this is that we would add the coating to a very similar, if not smaller, surface area on here, but the ability to use this like a mitt, so we'd still glove up when we use this, but it can contour quite nicely when you get to curves in the paint, whereas this here is very rigid. Like you probably could snap that, but you have more ability to work around contours of the car with this here. Quickens up the process a little bit as well, so we're experimenting a bit. Really, really happy with how this worked out on this car. Now we didn't film this process. The whole idea for us on this RS6 was to case study a little bit of the scratch removal. So what it looked like when it came here, a bit of the decontamination process, we showed that in a bit of detail, some of the polishing, but we skipped the coating process. Just wanted to show you guys what it looked like when it arrived, what it looks like when it leaves the garage as well.
So if you're really interested on how to apply coating, we've got quite a few videos on that. Go back, check out those videos. We do a step-by-step tutorial on how you can do that, and some different techniques, what to look for, removing high spots if that happens, and just things to look out for. So go back, check that out, because those videos are definitely more in depth than what we've done here. So we have a combined total of 60 hours into this vehicle, and I think when we got it, it was in pretty poor condition. Now, it's in really, really good condition. If I own this, I'd be pretty happy with where we've got. It's real strange to put numbers on things, but we're probably like 85, 90% corrected. You get out a light on here, you can definitely see some scratches, but I think in the normal daylight, taken to the supermarket, daily driving this car, I think it's probably going to be the cleanest car on the road this afternoon when it leaves. And I hope the customer's really happy with it. Okay, so the real take-home message on this vehicle is decontaminating the paint. So Glenn and I, when we started, we removed all the dirt and grime, we gave it a wash, we removed quite a bit of tar, but what really surprised us is the amount of iron that was on this vehicle. Usually when we do this, we get a few dots of iron here or there. On this car, it took a few minutes or so for that iron product to start to react with the iron, and then the whole car basically turned purple. That's a really rare find for us. That tells us that there was a lot of iron on the paint. Now, if you don't remove the dirt and grime, the tar and the iron, those deposits are going to get stuck into your polishing pad, and you're basically going to be moving that pad around with all those sharp objects in the pad, and you're going to be, yes, you'll be removing some scratches, but you may also be adding some in as you move those contaminants around the paint. So I think that tells us a little bit of history about what's happened to this car. I think it's sat in the dealership, and customers have been coming in, test driving that car, and they've been sort of dry wiping and loving on this car quite a lot. They've had the microfiber towel, they've had the they've had the quick detailing spray, and they've rubbed on it because there's a lot of linear scratches. Now, if you put that in combination with a lot of iron on the paint, and a lot of dust and a lot of dry wiping, that's why we have so many linear scratches, and that's why this paint came in really quite bad nick for a brand new car coming from the dealership. So that is a real key take-home message. Do not miss your decontamination step, because I think it's super important to do it, and I definitely think it helps get the surface bare so that you get the best results when you're polishing. So once the surface was nice and bare, it comes into polishing. Now the real challenge we had was trying to work out a good polish, cutting compound and pad combination. Now we used the Ruper's fine foam pad, and we used Meguiar's M101, and it worked brilliantly. But the problem we're having here is this paint is matte, flat, grey paint. Now usually what happens is that you have a little bit of a fleck in the paint, or you have a nice bright colour, might be a blue or a red car. Those colours are really good to shine up, and they're really good to sort of hide imperfections and defects within the paint. There's no cheating on this car. This shows all the work that we've put into it. It really exposes the detailer here, because all the scratches are super visible, and some of these were really deep. Now you saw on the overlays on the bottom and stuff, those scratches were super deep. Now I sort of explained to Glenn, like, some of these scratches are kind of like someone's gone around with a blunt pencil, and they've just gone like this all over the car, and some of you can see them sort of indented into the paint. Those are really hard to come out. And so some of them are still there, but I think we've got a really good finish on there, and I'm super happy with how this car turned out. A lot of hours and a lot of hard work put in here, but I think the result is pretty close to perfection here. Another interesting thing that we found out about this car is that it seems that when the grey paint went down, there must have been some particles in the air that have then stuck to the paint, and then during the clear process they have cleared over little black dots. There's probably about, I don't know, maybe 5 black dots in and around this paint, and they feel very smooth. They look like tar spots. They do not polish out, and I think it's because it's in between the paint colour and the clear coat. So, you know, you buy yourself a brand new car, you expect that you're getting really nice quality paint, but there's all those little errors that happen throughout the paint process and the manufacturing process that we get first-hand experience with because we see them, but you're probably not going to notice them when you're driving around or whatever, unless we showed them out to you. So this has been a really interesting case study for Glenn and I. This Audi RS6 is definitely a car that him and I can see that we will own one day in the garage, and it's something we sort of strive towards to have. So being able to work on this vehicle is definitely a privilege. It's been a pretty limited case study, focused more on the polishing and not so much on the coating side, but we might do a coating video in time to come. So if you're interested in having this done to your vehicle, go onto our website, omnigarage.co.nz, book it in, and we will give you the same treatment that we've done with this car and plenty of other customers. That's it from Omni Garage. Thanks for watching.